Welcome to Threads of Truth, the podcast where real-life mysteries meet internet speculation. Today, we're examining one of the world's most infamous missing persons cases, a graduation trip, a disappearance in Aruba, and questions that lingered for nearly 2 decades.
You know, it's one of those cases that just completely took over the culture.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it felt like it was everywhere.
Right. And as we walk through this today, we're really going to untangle a narrative where a tropical paradise, this place that feels so safe, basically became the backdrop for a predator hiding right in plain sight.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Because if you just imagine Aruba, right? It's this 20-mile island where practically everyone knows everyone.
Right. It's very small.
And it actively markets itself to tourists as this controlled, perfectly safe bubble.
Oh, definitely. A haven.
So imagine the calculated effort it takes for a person to just completely vanish inside that bubble, like without leaving a single trace.
It's honestly a terrifying contradiction when you really look at it.
It really is.
Because we are talking about a destination that is completely synonymous with celebration and security, you know?
Exactly.
But as we unpack the timeline, you're going to see how that very sense of safety is what provided the perfect camouflage.
Like it was used against her.
Completely. I mean, this wasn't a case of someone just wandering off into the wilderness and getting lost.
Right.
This was a scenario where a predator leveraged his environment, his social standing, and a really deeply complex international legal system to just hide in plain sight.
Wow. Yeah, and I want to start by framing exactly who is at the center of this. Because I think understanding her background makes the suddenness of the disappearance even more jarring for you.
It does. It makes it so much more visceral.
So the year is 2005, and Natalee Holloway is an 18-year-old high school senior.
Right.
And just looking at the source material, I mean, she wasn't just a student, she was a standout.
Oh, absolutely.
She was a stellar honors graduate from Mountain Brook High School in Alabama. She had this full scholarship waiting for her.
Right, a pre-med scholarship, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. She had her entire trajectory mapped out.
And you have to look at the community, too. Mountain Brook is this very affluent, tight-knit area.
Right.
So for these students, this trip to Aruba was the ultimate capstone.
Right. The big reward.
Exactly. You have this massive group. I mean, 124 classmates all traveling together to the Caribbean.
That's a huge group to keep track of.
It is. And there were 7 adult chaperones. So it was an unofficial graduation trip, but it was still highly organized.
Right. It wasn't just kids running wild completely unchecked.
No, not at all. And for the parents who are sending their kids on this trip, there's just an inherent assumption of safety in numbers.
Of course. You assume that out of 124 people, like, someone is always watching.
Precisely.
And they were staying at the Holiday Inn, which, if you've seen pictures, is this massive, sprawling resort right on the beach.
Very typical Caribbean resort.
Yeah, and it basically feels like an extension of their high school cafeteria, just relocated to the tropics. You know?
Right, they kind of take over the whole place.
Exactly. But that safety net, that illusion of the bubble, it completely shattered on the final night.
It did.
And the timeline of May 29th into the really early morning hours of May 30th. That is the absolute nucleus of everything we are exploring today.
Yeah, let's break down that timeline because the geography of the night and the movement of the group are just critical.
Lay it out for us.
So on that Sunday night, the group goes out to celebrate at Carlos and Charlie's.
I remember hearing about that place so much on the news.
Oh, yeah. It was a famously rowdy, super popular nightclub and restaurant right in downtown Oranjestad, which is the capital of Aruba.
Right.
And it's a place designed specifically for tourists. So it's loud, the music is blaring, people are, dancing on tables.
A total chaotic party scene.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's an environment where it is incredibly easy to lose track of someone for a few minutes.
And unfortunately, that is exactly what happened.
So it's roughly 1:30 a.m. and the bar is closing down.
The night's over.
Right. And the students are filtering out, getting ready to head back to the Holiday Inn.
Mm-hmm.
But Natalee doesn't get in a taxi with her friends.
No, she doesn't.
Instead, she's last seen leaving the immediate area of the nightclub in a silver Honda.
Right.
And she isn't alone. She gets into this car with 3 local young men.
And this is where everything changes.
Completely. There's a 17-year-old Dutch national named Joran van der Sloot and 2 brothers, Deepak and Satish Kalpo.
And that decision to step into the silver Honda, that is the pivot point of the next 2 decades.
It really is. It's chilling to think about a single moment like that.
It is, because what happens in the hours that follow is entirely dictated by the individuals inside that vehicle.
Right.
And the immediate aftermath, like the realization that something is horribly wrong, that doesn't happen until the sun comes up.
Right. So put yourself in the shoes of her classmates the next morning.
It's just a nightmare scenario. The group is scheduled to fly back to the United States. So everyone is groggy. They're packing up, doing head counts in the lobby.
Normal departure day stuff.
Exactly. But Natalee misses the 11:30 a.m. flight.
Which is an immediate red flag.
A huge one. Because on an island, you don't just casually miss an international flight.
No, you really don't.
So her friends go up to her room at the Holiday Inn. And the scene they find is, honestly, it's incredibly chilling, precisely because of how normal it is.
Yes, the normality is what makes it so terrifying.
Because her bags are completely packed.
Everything is ready to go.
Right. Her passport is just sitting right there, untouched in the room. Her cell phone is there.
Everything indicates she fully intended to go to the airport.
Exactly. There was no late-night packing panic, no sign of a struggle in the room at all.
She simply never made it back to the hotel.
And the panic must have been just absolute among her friends and the chaperones.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
And this really sets the stage for what we need to explore today. We're going to look at how this massive, highly publicized international investigation basically ground to a halt because of legal loopholes.
Right, which was so frustrating to watch unfold.
Insanely frustrating. And we'll look at how the resulting vacuum was hijacked by internet sleuths and just unprecedented media sensationalism.
The total circus.
Yeah. And finally, how a calculating predator's own financial greed ultimately brought him down 18 years later.
Which is a wild conclusion to all of this.
It really is.
Yes.
But before we get to the investigation itself, I need you to explain the physical reality of Aruba.
Sure.
Because I think a lot of us are wondering, how does an island measuring just 20 miles long, crowded with tourists, manage to swallow a person completely without leaving a single physical trace?
Well, it is the central paradox of this whole mystery, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when people think of Aruba, they usually think of the south and west coasts.
Right, the tourist spot.
Exactly. The white sand beaches, the calm turquoise water, the massive hotel chains. It feels very contained and safe.
Like a giant swimming pool almost.
Exactly. But Aruba is located in the deep southern Caribbean. It's actually just miles off the coast of Venezuela.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was that far south.
Yeah, it's way down there. And the northern and eastern coasts are entirely different from the tourist side.
How so?
They are incredibly rugged, very isolated, and they are battered by extremely strong, deep ocean currents.
Oh.
Currents that pull very aggressively out to sea.
So you're saying that if someone wanted to dispose of evidence, or, God forbid, a person, they really wouldn't have to go far to find a pretty hostile, unforgiving environment.
Precisely.
Wow.
If you enter the water on the north side, or even if you just take a small boat a mile offshore, you are suddenly dealing with oceanic drop-offs.
Right.
And currents that can carry something miles and miles away in just a matter of hours.
It's so dark.
It is. A person disappears without a trace in a small, crowded place only when someone actively and very quickly utilizes that surrounding environment to obscure the trace.
To basically use nature as an accomplice.
Exactly. And to understand how that was achieved, we have to look directly at the individual who is driving that timeline, Joran van der Sloot.
Yeah, let's talk about him.
Yeah.
Because looking at the initial profiles of Joran van der Sloot in our sources,
Yeah.
it is genuinely
It's
unsettling.
very disturbing.
Like, if you were casting a movie, he would not be the villain.
Not at all.
He was a 17-year-old honor student at the International School of Aruba.
Mm-hmm.
He was an athlete. He played in competitive high-level tennis tournaments with his father.
Right. He was very visible in the community.
Yeah, and he spoke multiple languages.
Mm-hmm.
On paper, he was the local golden boy.
The absolute last person you would suspect of orchestrating a disappearance.
Exactly. But there's a flip side to that, right?
There is. What is fascinating and deeply disturbing is the profound duality of his life.
Because it wasn't real.
No, that pristine resume was a meticulously maintained facade.
Wow.
Much later, even his own mother, Anita, went on the record and described him as a, quote, habitual liar.
His own mother.
Yes. She detailed a pattern of behavior where he would routinely sneak out of his bedroom window in the middle of the night to go to local casinos.
Wait, really? A 17-year-old sneaking out to gamble at casinos?
Yes, quite frequently.
How does a teenager even get a seat at a casino table on a highly regulated tourist island? Like, wouldn't they ID him immediately?
Well, that points directly to the privilege she enjoyed.
Oh, I see.
Because in Aruba, the legal gambling age is 18. But enforcement at the time was notoriously lax.
Especially if you were local, I imagine.
Exactly, especially for locals who were recognized and connected. And Joran was known in these establishments.
So they just look the other way.
Right. He had this underlying antisocial compulsion, a pretty severe gambling habit, and a history of manipulation.
Right.
But it was completely masked by his family's socioeconomic status.
And we really need to emphasize his family status, specifically his father, Paulus van der Sloot.
Yes, Paulus is a huge factor here.
Because Paulus wasn't just a successful local professional, he's a prominent, highly connected lawyer.
And he was actively training to become a judge in the Aruban legal system.
Right.
This isn't a minor detail for us to just gloss over. We are thrust immediately into a scenario involving extreme legal privilege.
It changes the entire dynamic of the investigation from day one.
Completely.
Because you're not dealing with a panicked teenager making mistakes in a standard police interrogation room.
Right. Who just caves under pressure.
Exactly. You are dealing with a suspect whose father intimately understands the exact mechanics of the law.
He knows how the machine works.
He knows the thresholds of evidence, the potential loopholes of local law enforcement.
Yeah.
And when a suspect is shielded by someone with deep systemic knowledge of how the police operate, the authorities are put at a massive immediate disadvantage.
I can only imagine. But let's talk about the search efforts,
Yeah.
because despite that disadvantage, the authorities really threw everything they had at the island.
They absolutely did. It was unprecedented.
The sheer scale of the mobilization is staggering when you read about it.
They had volunteer search and rescue teams flying in all the way from Texas.
Right. EquiSearch was heavily involved.
Yeah, and the entire Aruban police force was on foot. The Netherlands deployed Dutch Marines.
Which is a huge escalation.
Seriously. They even had 3 F-16 fighter planes conducting aerial sweeps.
Yes. And the use of the F-16s is a perfect example of just how desperate the search became.
Right, because you don't call in fighter jets for a simple missile person case.
Exactly. And they weren't just flying around looking out the window, you know.
Right.
They were utilizing advanced technology, likely infrared and synthetic aperture radar.
Oh, wow. What does that actually do?
It's designed to detect anomalies in the ground surface. So things like freshly turned earth or very slight variations in temperature.
Okay, right. Because if you bury something in the desert, the disturbed soil holds heat differently than the packed soil around it.
Precisely. So they are literally mapping the island from the sky, looking for a grave.
That is intense. And down on the ground, you had divers exploring underwater fish traps off the coast. You had teams draining massive retaining ponds near the Marriott Hotel.
Right, pumping out thousands of gallons of water.
You had volunteers probing the dirt with thin metal rods. It honestly sounds like they turned the island upside down.
They did.
So why did they find absolutely nothing?
Well, because physical searches, no matter how technologically advanced or heavily manned they are, they require a starting point.
Right. You have to know where to look.
Exactly. They need a crime scene, a physical clue, or a reliable witness to narrow the grid.
And they had none of that.
Right. In this case, the narrative of where Natalee went was entirely controlled by Joran and the Kelpo brothers.
Oh, I see. So law enforcement was essentially chasing an illusion.
Completely. Every time they mobilized to search a specific area, they were operating on information that had been strategically manipulated.
Man, that is so frustrating. And this brings us to the cycle of arrests, which, just reading through it, feels like a psychological torture tactic aimed at the public.
It's incredibly convoluted.
Let me run through this timeline for you guys because it is baffling.
Go ahead.
So, Joran and the two Kelpo brothers are arrested in June of 2005.
Right.
A month later, they are released. Then in August, Joran is rearrested.
Mm-hmm.
In September, he is released again. 2 whole years go by.
Yeah.
In 2007, they are arrested again, and then, predictably, released again.
It's a dizzying cycle.
How does a justice system just keep catching and releasing the primary suspects in a high-profile murder investigation?
Right. Doesn't make sense to an American audience. But to understand that, we have to look at the massive differences between the Aruban legal system and the system most of us are familiar with.
Okay, let's get into that.
The United States operates on a common law system, right? Which is adversarial.
Right. Prosecution versus defense.
Exactly. So circumstantial evidence, like a suspect changing his story, a timeline not adding up, or witness testimony, that can absolutely be enough to secure a murder conviction.
Even without a body.
Even without a body. But Aruba operates under Dutch civil law. Okay.
Which is an inquisitorial system.
Break that down for us. What is the practical difference when you have a suspect sitting in an interrogation room?
Well, under Dutch civil law, a judge or magistrate is actively involved in directing the investigation itself.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And the threshold to hold someone in pretrial detention, to actually keep them locked in a cell while you investigate, is incredibly high.
So they can't just hold him on suspicion?
No, they require concrete, objective, incriminating evidence.
Like what?
A confession is the gold standard, obviously. But if you don't have a confession, you need a crime scene, a weapon, or a body.
So it's kind of like a locked vault.
That's a good way to put it.
Like in the U.S., circumstantial evidence is like a slightly misshapen key. If you jiggle it enough and convince a jury that the key belongs to the lock, the vault opens.
Right.
But in Aruba, the system demands the exact perfect fingerprint, like the physical body, to open the door.
Exactly. And Joran knew he held the only key.
Joran, almost certainly through the advice he received, seemed to understand exactly where the tripwires were in that legal system.
Because of his dad.
Most likely. His behavior during interrogations was practically a masterclass in calculated obfuscation.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, he didn't just stay silent. He didn't invoke his right to remain silent and shut down.
Right.
He actively fed the police noise.
Oh, like throwing sand in their eyes.
Yes. He constantly shifted his narrative, constantly adapting it to whatever tiny piece of evidence the police confronted him with.
Right, right. Let's talk about those shifting stories because it's wild.
Yeah.
First, he told investigators that he simply dropped Natalee off at her hotel, a Holiday Inn, and left.
Right. A very simple, clean alibi.
But then the police actually checked the hotel security cameras, and Natalee was never seen on them.
Right. The cameras completely contradicted him.
So when confronted with the footage, Joran instantly pivoted.
He didn't even miss a beat.
He changed the story entirely, claiming that she actually asked to be dropped off at a beach near the hotel, and he just left her there alone.
Yeah.
And when the timeline of the Calpo brothers didn't match his new story, he changed it again.
It's maddening.
He eventually claimed that they were on the beach. She fell, hit her head, and he panicked and left her there. It is so infuriating. He is literally weaponizing his own lies. The moment the police pin him down on a fact, he just invents a new reality to explain it away.
He does. And because the Aruban system requires objective evidence to prove that a specific lie is covering up a specific crime, his shifting stories weren't enough to hold him indefinitely.
That's his wife.
He would confess to something minor like leaving her alone on the beach, which isn't a murder charge.
Right.
And the authorities would be legally forced to release him.
It's sickening. He completely gamed the system.
He did.
But the first real crack in his armor didn't come from the Aruban police or the Dutch Marines, right?
No, it didn't.
It came 3 years later, in 2008, from a journalist.
Yes, Peter R. de Vries.
We really need to talk about the undercover sting orchestrated by him, because this is where the investigation enters incredibly dark, almost cinematic territory.
It really does. Peter R. de Vries was a highly respected, deeply connected investigative journalist in the Netherlands.
A big deal over there.
Very big deal. And he recognized a crucial flaw in the official investigation.
What was that?
He saw that Joran felt completely invincible against police interrogators.
Because he knew how to beat them.
Exactly. So de Vries decided to bypass the official channels entirely.
Okay.
He understood that the only way to get Joran to speak the truth was to remove the pressure of the law and replace it with the illusion of a peer.
Okay, so he uses an undercover operative, right? A man named Patrick Van Driem.
Correct.
And Van Riem's job wasn't to interrogate Yaron. His job was just to befriend him.
To get close to him.
Yeah, he presented himself as this wealthy, slightly shady character. He gained Yoran's trust, took him to casinos, paid for things, and essentially made Yoran feel like he was impressing an older criminal mentor.
And the psychology of that setup was brilliant.
Why is that?
Because narcissists crave an audience that validates their ego.
Of course.
Van Riem provided exactly that. He gave him a stage.
And eventually he got Yoran into a Range Rover that DeVries had rigged with hidden cameras and highly sensitive microphones.
Yes.
So picture this. Joran Vandersloot is sitting in this luxury car, smoking marijuana with this undercover operative, feeling completely relaxed.
Right.
He just starts talking.
He unloads.
He claims that he and Natalee were on the beach, and suddenly she had some kind of seizure. He said she was shaking, unresponsive, and he couldn't revive her.
And according to his statement on that hidden tape, he didn't call an ambulance.
No.
He claimed he panicked. And then he detailed how he used a payphone to call a friend, a man he referred to as Dory.
And he tells the operative that this friend Dory arrived, helped him load Natalee's body onto a small boat, and they drove far out into the ocean.
Right.
He specifically says they dumped her body at sea, taking advantage of the very ocean currents we talked about earlier.
Yes.
When I read this, my jaw dropped.
It's shocking footage.
You have a prime suspect on high-quality audio and video explicitly detailing the disposal of the victim's body.
And the broadcast of this tape was a cultural phenomenon.
Oh, I bet.
When DeVries aired the footage in the Netherlands, over 7 million people tuned in.
Wow.
To put that in perspective for you, that is nearly half the population of the country at the time.
Half the country. That's insane.
It remains one of the most watched non-sports broadcasts in Dutch television history.
That is wild. And naturally, the public expectation is immediate arrest and conviction.
Of course.
I mean, the Aruban prosecutor even reviewed the tape and ruled that it was legally admissible as evidence.
He did.
They didn't throw it out on some wiretapping technicality.
Wow.
But, and I need you to explain this because it defies all logic for me, they still deemed it insufficient to charge him with murder.
Yeah.
How is a taped confession detailing the disposal of a body not enough?
Well, it goes back to that locked vault of the Dutch civil law system we discussed.
Right.
The moment Joran realized he had been caught on tape, he didn't panic.
Of course not.
He reverted to his primary defense mechanism. He lied to explain the lie.
Oh, my God.
He immediately told prosecutors that the entire story about the seizure and the boat was fabricated.
Just made up on the spot.
Yes, he claimed he was just trying to impress Patrick Van Riem, whom he believed was a big-time drug dealer.
Are you kidding me? I was just bragging to a criminal defense.
Exactly.
That is infuriating.
And legally, without corroborating physical evidence, it created reasonable doubt within that specific system.
Because they couldn't prove the boat story happened.
Right. The police actually tracked down the friend he named, Dory, but Dory denied everything and he had a solid alibi. They couldn't find the specific boat he described. And crucially, they still didn't have Natalee's body to prove she died of a seizure or a blow to the head or anything else.
Unbelievable.
The prosecution felt they couldn't objectively prove that the tape was a factual recounting of events rather than just another one of Joran's elaborate fantasies.
So a technicality allows him to slip through the net yet again.
Yet again.
And this failure of the official justice system, it created a massive gaping vacuum.
It really did.
Because the Aruban authorities hit a legal dead end, the public simply took over. I mean, this case arguably birthed the modern era of digital true crime sleuthing.
Oh, without a doubt. Nature abhors a vacuum, but the internet genuinely thrives on one.
So true.
When official channels fail to provide a cohesive narrative, human nature compels us to build our own.
We want a story that makes sense.
Right. And because there was absolutely zero physical evidence to anchor the facts, the theories that populated early internet forums became increasingly elaborate and, honestly, conspiratorial.
Oh, absolutely. Let's examine those cover-up theories because they dominated the conversation for years online.
They did.
Naturally, the intense speculation zeroed in on Joran's father, Paulus.
Of course it did.
The internet wasn't just debating whether Paulus gave his son legal advice. The prevailing theory was that an Aruban judge in training actively orchestrated the disposal of an American teenager to protect his family's legacy.
Right, that he was the mastermind.
Yeah. And that theory wasn't entirely built on thin air, right?
No, it was fueled by a highly incendiary piece of information within the official police dossier.
Okay. What was that?
According to the chief prosecutor at the time, there was a statement provided by one of the Kelpo brothers during an interrogation.
Really?
And the brother alleged that Paulus van der Sloot explicitly told Joran, no body, no case.
Nobody, no case. Wow.
Yes.
If that is true, that is not a father comforting a scared kid.
Not at all.
That is a legal professional providing a strategic, tactical blueprint on how to dismantle a homicide investigation.
Yes, it is.
It is essentially an instruction manual for obstruction of justice.
It's a chilling mandate. And whether it was said exactly in those terms or not, Joran operated exactly as if it were his prime directive.
He stuck to it perfectly.
He did. And the literal application of no body, no case is what drove the internet forums into an absolute frenzy.
Oh, yeah. Because every time the ocean washed something ashore, the digital world exploded.
Every single time.
The false hope was just relentless. Like, I remember reading about the Jawbone incident in 2010.
Oh, the jawbone, yes.
A tourist is walking on a beach in Aruba and finds a piece of a jawbone.
Mm-hmm.
The local authorities lock down the area. The FBI gets involved. They pull dental records.
Everyone thought this was the break.
Right. They rush it to a forensic lab in the Netherlands to test the DNA. For a week, the entire world holds its breath thinking, this is it. The vault is finally going to open.
And then the results come back.
Yeah.
The bone was human, but the DNA did not match Natalee Holloway.
Just a complete dead end.
It likely belonged to an indigenous inhabitant from hundreds of years ago.
That is so heartbreaking for the family. And the psychological toll of those repeated cycles, high hope, followed by devastating forensic disappointment, it only made the online ecosystem more obsessive.
It did. People were analyzing every single frame of every interview Joran gave.
They scrutinized the water currents, the witness statements, the political climate of the Aruban police force.
Everything. The lack of a body turned the entire investigation into a global Rorschach test, you know?
Oh, that's a great way to describe it.
People projected whatever conspiracy they were predisposed to believe onto the blank canvas of the missing evidence.
Right, whatever fit their narrative. And the mainstream media didn't just report on this internet phenomenon, they monetized it on an unprecedented scale.
Oh, absolutely.
Cable news networks ran with the disappearance 24/7.
Reading's gold for them.
Exactly. But what is truly bizarre and, frankly, grotesque is how Joran van der Sloot interacted with this media circus.
It's very unusual behavior.
Because most prime suspects in a murder investigation, they hide. They bunker down with their lawyers.
They lay low.
Yeah. But Joran did the exact opposite. He went on a global media tour.
Yes, he did. And that decision to step into the spotlight is a defining characteristic of severe narcissistic pathology.
How so?
Well, he didn't just want to evade prison. He wanted to actively control the narrative.
Right.
He wanted to taunt the authorities, and he really wanted to bask in the infamy.
That is so sick. Like in 2006, he actually sat down for a highly publicized 3-night interview series on Fox News.
Yes.
He used primetime American television to spin his constantly changing narrative to millions of viewers.
Mm-hmm.
And the media ecosystem was more than happy to give him the microphone.
The symbiotic relationship between the suspect and the media was incredibly toxic.
Toxic is the perfect word.
Because the networks needed constant content to feed a public that was utterly obsessed with the mystery.
Right.
And Joran desperately needed an audience to validate his sense of superiority.
It's a match made in hell. And that toxic relationship extended for years.
Decades, really?
Yeah, even a decade later, there was an Oxygen true crime docuseries that gave airtime to a man named John Ludwig.
Oh, yes. That whole situation.
This guy goes on national television and claims that Joran paid him $1,500 to dig up Natalee's buried remains, to crush the bones and cremate them in a pet cemetery.
It was a total, absolute fabrication.
Completely made up.
Completely. It was just a sick attempt by a peripheral character to inject himself into the infamy of the case.
Wow. It caused the Holloway family immense unnecessary pain.
Terribly cruel.
And as an eerie footnote to that specific lie, our sources note that John Ludwig was later stabbed to death during a failed kidnapping attempt he orchestrated in Florida.
Which is just a bizarre end to his story.
It really is. It feels like everyone who tried to orbit or profit off this darkness ended up consumed by it in some way.
That's a very apt observation.
But looking at Jordan's media tour, I have a question for you. Did this wall-to-wall media coverage actually help? Like, did it pressure the authorities to work harder? Or did it just provide a massive, glowing stage for a narcissist to muddy the waters and enjoy his untouchability?
It's a double-edged sword, really.
Yeah.
In the very early days, the intense media pressure undoubtedly forced the Aruban authorities to take the disappearance seriously and execute those initial arrests.
Right. They couldn't just sweep it under the rug.
Exactly. But over the long term, the media circus actively empowered him.
Because he realized he could get away with anything.
Right. He realized that he could say absolutely anything. He could confess, retract it the next day, blame a friend, and there would be no legal consequences.
Wow.
The world would just hang on his every word. It gave him a profound and ultimately deadly sense of invincibility.
And you see that invincibility in how he lived his life after the initial investigation cooled down?
Oh, definitely.
He didn't retreat. He lived a bizarre, highly visible international life.
His post-disappearance timeline is genuinely chilling. He just leaned into his darker compulsions.
Tell us about that.
Well, we see him traveling to Macau to play in the Asia-Pacific Poker Tour.
And he was reportedly making a significant income playing high-stakes online poker under various aliases.
Right.
Just funding his lifestyle.
Yes. And then he moves to Thailand.
Thailand. While an American family is agonizing over the unknown and international police agencies are spinning their wheels, the prime suspect is literally living in a suburb of Bangkok.
Yes. He actually bought a restaurant and opened a sandwich shop.
A sandwich shop.
Yes. But the facade of a normal life in Thailand was just that, a facade.
I figured as much. What was really going on?
According to undercover footage obtained again by Peter R. DeVries and subsequent investigations by Thai authorities, Joran was allegedly deeply involved in the local criminal underworld.
Oh, wow.
There were highly credible reports that he was making preparations to traffic Thai women into forced prostitution rings in the Netherlands.
That is horrific.
It is.
And the internet tracked his every move, right? They mapped his poker aliases. They found his sandwich shop.
They were constantly watching him.
They essentially turned a murder suspect into a dark global celebrity. And this leads us to the critical analysis of our examination today.
Right.
Because we have to connect the dots between this media-fueled invincibility complex and the horrifying real-world escalation that inevitably followed.
Yes. When a predator firmly believes they have successfully outsmarted the global justice system, their internal boundaries just disappear.
Because no one has stopped them.
Exactly. Escalation isn't just possible, it is almost a psychological certainty.
Which brings us to the mirror murder in Peru. The details of this crime are so precise and the timing is so specific, it almost feels scripted by a screenwriter. But it is brutally real.
It's terrifyingly real.
We're looking at the events of May 30th. 2010.
Right.
Let that date sink in. May 30th.
Okay.
That is exactly 5 years to the very day after Natalee Holloway disappeared in Aruba.
The anniversary is haunting.
It is. So Duran travels to Lima, Peru, to compete in the Latin American Poker Tour. He registers at a hotel under his own name. And during the tournament, he meets a 21-year-old Peruvian business student named Stephanie Flores at a local casino.
Right. Their paths cross.
They do. Surveillance video from the casino actually shows them sitting at the same poker table, interacting, playing cards.
Normal casino behavior.
Yeah. Later that night, they leave the casino together and go back to his registered hotel room. And inside that room, he brutally murders her.
Yes.
He beats her to death, takes the thousands of dollars she had won at the casino, leaves her body on the floor, and flees the country.
It's incredibly violent.
But why? He had been so calculated for 5 years. Why did he snap and commit a murder so reckless that it guaranteed his capture?
Well, the motive he eventually provided to the Peruvian police is a direct reflection of his infamy.
Really? How so?
Joran claimed that he briefly left the hotel room to get 2 cups of coffee.
Okay.
And when he returned, he said he caught Stephanie using his open laptop. According to his confession, she had searched his name on the internet and discovered his direct connection to the Natalee Holloway disappearance.
Oh, wow. So his past literally catches up to him on a glowing screen in a hotel room.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
He claimed that Stephanie confronted him about it. And in a moment of pure narcissistic rage, infuriated that his private life had been exposed and challenged by someone he viewed as prey, he attacked her.
That is terrifying.
It is.
So he flees to Chile in a rented taxi.
Right.
But this time, he is not operating in the geographical bubble of Aruba, and he is not dealing with a lack of physical evidence.
No, the circumstances are entirely different.
Right. He left a battered body in a hotel room registered to his own passport. He left blood on his clothes.
Yeah.
He left clear hotel surveillance video showing them entering the room together and him leaving alone.
He left a massive trail.
Right. And the contrast in the police response is stark.
Very stark. The Peruvian authorities immediately locked down the crime scene.
They didn't mess around.
No.
Yeah.
They secured the forensic evidence and they tracked his border crossing.
Wow.
He was captured by Chilean police within days and immediately extradited back to Lima. The evidence was absolute.
So the invincibility was finally shattered.
Completely.
In 2012, facing insurmountable evidence, he pleaded guilty to qualified murder and simple robbery. And the Peruvian judicial system sentenced him to 28 years in a maximum security prison.
Right.
The man who gamed the Dutch civil law system was finally locked in a cage.
He was. But there is a massive, incredibly important question we need to answer here.
What's that?
Why was Joran van der Sloot in South America in the first place?
Oh, right.
How was a guy who was allegedly running a sandwich shop in Thailand funding international flights and buy-ins for high-stakes poker tournaments in Peru?
That is a great point. And this is where the story loops back on itself in the most poetic, devastating way possible.
It really does.
To answer that, we have to look at the extortion plot.
Yes.
Because it wasn't a murder charge that finally sold the Natalee Holloway case, it was wire fraud.
Which is wild to think about.
It is. So just weeks before he traveled to Peru in early 2010, Joran initiated a highly calculated extortion scheme targeting Natalee's family.
Right.
She reached out to John Q. Kelly, the prominent New York attorney representing Natalee's mother, Beth Holloway.
Yeah.
He contacts the lawyer of the grieving mother, and he makes a demand. He asks for $250,000.
$250,000.
Right. And in exchange for that money, he promises to reveal the exact physical location of Natalee's remains and provide the true details of how she died.
It is an act of unimaginable psychological cruelty.
It is evil.
He is intentionally weaponizing a mother's 5-year desperation for closure,
Right.
attempting to monetize her grief to fund his gambling addiction.
Disgusting.
But by reaching out to an American lawyer, he made a fatal jurisdictional miscalculation.
Exactly. Because John Q. Kelly doesn't just write a check.
No, he doesn't.
He contacts the FBI.
Yeah.
And the FBI immediately sets up an international sting operation.
Yeah.
Because if he's demanding money across international lines, doesn't that immediately invite federal jurisdiction?
It does. The FBI recognized that while they couldn't charge him with murder in Aruba, they could absolutely charge him with extortion and wire fraud under United States federal law if he utilized American financial infrastructure to commit the crime.
Oh, man, that is brilliant. So they play along.
They do.
They negotiate a $25,000 down payment to secure the information. The sting goes down. Joran meets with an undercover operative in Aruba.
Right?
The operative hands him $10,000 in physical cash.
And simultaneously.
Right. Simultaneously, the FBI authorizes a wire transfer of $15,000 from a bank in New York directly into Joran's bank account in the Netherlands.
Yes.
Once the money clears, Joran provides the information. He tells the lawyer that Natalee's buried in the foundation of a specific house in Aruba.
But it's a complete lie.
Completely fabricated.
And the FBI checks the location, and the house he pointed to hadn't even been built yet when Natalee disappeared.
Right. It was an empty lot in 2005.
Exactly. He just takes the $25,000, uses a portion of it to buy a plane ticket to South America, and travels to Peru.
He literally used the extortion money squeezed from Natalee's mother to fund the trip where he murdered Stephanie Flores.
It is a horrific compounding chain of causality.
It really is.
But legally, accepting that wire transfer was the mistake that ended his freedom.
Wow.
By transmitting a fraudulent demand for money across international borders into the United States, he violated Title 18 of the U.S. Code.
So they got him.
Yes. A federal grand jury in Alabama indicted him on charges of wire fraud and extortion.
Think about the irony of this.
It's profound.
It wasn't the entire Aruba police force. It wasn't the F-16 fighter jets mapping the desert.
No.
It wasn't the sophisticated Dutch reporters with hidden cameras. What finally trapped Joran van der Sloot for the crimes against the Holloway family was his own unmitigated greed. His arrogance pushed him to commit a white-collar financial crime that fell squarely into the lap of the FBI.
And that federal indictment sat dormant, waiting for him while he served his murder sentence in Peru.
Right.
It was a ticking clock.
Yeah.
The U.S. Justice Department never dropped the charges. They just waited until the diplomatic channels aligned.
Wow. Fast forward to October 2023.
Yes, very recently.
In a landmark, highly unusual diplomatic move, the Peruvian government agrees to temporarily extradite Joran van der Sloot to Birmingham, Alabama. He was put on an FBI plane and flown to the exact state where Natalee grew up, the state she was supposed to return to 18 years earlier.
The legal pressure applied by the U.S. prosecutors was immense here.
I bet.
He was facing maximum consecutive sentences for the federal charges, which will be added to the end of his Peruvian sentence.
So he essentially never get out.
Right.
Yeah.
To mitigate that, he was forced to accept a plea deal.
Right.
And the absolute non-negotiable cornerstone of that plea agreement required him to provide a complete verified confession under oath about exactly what happened to Natalee.
After 18 years of shifting narratives, media manipulation, and pathological lies, he is finally sitting in a room with his attorney.
Yes.
Beth Holloway, Natalee's mother, is listening from another room.
Yeah.
And he finally details the finalized horrific truth. What exactly did he say?
The details of the proffered transcript are brutal, but they are necessary to understand the reality of the crime.
Okay.
Joran stated that after leaving the nightclub, they walked down the beach together. He admitted that he made aggressive sexual advances toward her.
And according to his own sworn testimony, Natalee refused.
She did.
She told him no. And when he persisted, she didn't just passively accept it, she fought back.
Yes.
She needs it in the crotch to defend herself.
And that physical rejection, that blow to his ego, triggered a homicidal rage.
Oh my God.
He confessed that he retaliated by kicking her violently in the face, which knocked her unconscious on the sand.
God.
He then looked around, found a heavy cinder block lying nearby, and used it to repeatedly bludgeon her.
He beat an 18-year-old girl to death with a cinder block because she had the courage to say no to him.
Yes.
That is just, is pure evil. And then he explained the disappearance, right?
He did. He admitted that he dragged her body into the ocean.
Just like people suspected.
He walked knee-deep into the Caribbean Sea and pushed her out, letting those aggressive deep ocean currents catch her.
Which explains everything.
It does. That is why the F-16s found nothing. That is why the divers found nothing.
Yeah.
He used the unforgiving geography of the island to erase her.
The brutality of the violence is just staggering. But for the Holloway family, the confession provided an incredibly profound psychological resolution.
It did. They no longer had to wonder. The blank canvas was finally filled in.
Right. And Beth Holloway's reaction outside the courthouse after hearing that confession is something that will stay with me forever.
It was incredibly moving.
After enduring 18 years of lies and finally hearing the horrific way her daughter died, she didn't focus on the brutality of the murder.
No, she didn't.
She focused entirely on the strength of her daughter. She stood before the cameras and said, "She fought like hell. I think she fought like hell with her killer. She stood her ground."
It is a powerful reframing of the narrative.
It really is.
It reclaims Natalee's agency. She wasn't just a passive victim of a mysterious tragedy.
No?
She was a strong young woman who actively defended herself against a violent predator. It fundamentally shifts how history will remember her.
It genuinely does.
Yeah.
So as we step back and look at the entirety of this case, why did this specific mystery command the world's attention for nearly 2 decades?
Well, I think it commanded our attention because it exposed our deepest, most uncomfortable vulnerabilities.
Like the bubble we talked about.
Exactly.
Right.
It shattered the illusion of safety in places we designate for relaxation and celebration. It highlighted the maddening reality of international jurisdictional loopholes, where the pursuit of justice can be completely paralyzed by a border or a different legal standard.
Yeah, that was incredibly frustrating.
But primarily, it forced the world to watch a predator who was intelligent enough to use legal technicalities as a shield and arrogant enough to mock the victims while he did it.
The unbearable uncertainty of an empty hotel room, a packed suitcase, and a left-behind passport transformed into a worldwide phenomenon. For 18 years, millions of people debated, searched, and theorized. But in the end, it took nearly 2 decades to prove a very simple truth. A suspect's own arrogance is almost always his ultimate undoing.
Very true.
He genuinely believed he could extort a grieving mother across international lines and walk away. And that exact unchecked arrogance is what finally locked the handcuffs on him in an American federal courtroom.
It serves as a stark, enduring reminder that the truth, no matter how deeply it is buried or how deliberately it is obscured, has a way of eventually forcing itself into the light.
It really does.
The legal systems of the world may be deeply flawed, but human greed and hubris often provide the exact leverage needed to balance the scales of justice.
Absolutely. As we close out today's examination, put yourself in that environment. Consider the terrifying proximity of everyday life. You can share a crowded dance floor, a casual drink, or a quiet walk on the beach in a beautiful, highly populated paradise with someone who possesses a profound, violent darkness.
Right.
You can be surrounded by your closest friends, just steps away from the bright lights of a resort, and the only thing separating a dream vacation from a 20-year nightmare is a single split-second decision to say no.
It's a heavy thought to leave with.
It is. Next time, we examine the strange story of Lori Erica Ruff, a woman whose death revealed that almost everything about her identity had been a secret.